This is North Dakota Legislative Review. I'm Dave Thompson. Thanks for joining us. Our guest on the program today is the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Joan Heckman from New Rockford. Senator, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. I always enjoy coming to visit with you.
And there's a lot of issues to talk about because you have a new governor, you've got lots of things, you've got a budget that's constrained. We've got a lot to talk about this half hour, but I want to set the stage by talking about your role as the Minority Leader this year.
Well, my role as Minority Leader is new for me. I was assistant for 2 sessions, so I really haven't had the opportunity to find out exactly what the Minority Leader does, but it didn't take me long to figure that out, that there's a lot of connecting to do around the Capitol between the majority and the minority party, with lobbyists, making sure that our bills are covered that we wanted to cover in our topic areas that we have, and we're looking at, in our caucus, on 4 pillars of good government in North Dakota. Good government means having a strong economy, having rural vibrancy, having good tax incentives, and then having good governance. And, you know, in my role, I'm making sure that we've covered all those with pieces of legislation. But it's just been interesting. It's been good. I've enjoyed it, and I've been busy because I sit on Human Services also as a 3-day committee.
Yeah, that was a little break from tradition because leaders normally don't sit on committees, but Democrats have had to step up.
We have only one sitting legislator on every committee, and that makes a lot of work for all of our caucus members who are here. And I'm sitting in on Human Services. We have new Senator Merrill Pepcorn from Fargo, and it's good for me to be in on that committee because I'm having to be gone a lot for minority leadership business, and then he's able to take over when I'm not there, and we have a voice and an ear in that committee when I'm gone.
Well, you mentioned the 4 pillars that you have kind of set up that you want to see bills attached to. Are bills attached to all the pillars?
We're almost done completing all of those 4 pillars this week. The Senate will have their last opportunity to put bills on it in Monday by 5 o'clock. We have a few bills still sitting out there on senators' desks that need submitting, but I think that we'll cover all of those and have a good platform for North Dakota and the vibrancy that we want to see, not only in the economy, but for the families, given the budget conditions that we have right now.
Yeah, the serious budget problems. Well, not really serious if you look at the state does have money, but there are money committed in certain silos or in certain buckets. So it's the general fund that is a bit of a concern right now, and there's going to be some belt tightening.
There is. We just got some information this morning from Office of Management and Budget, and Alan Knudsen came down and visited with me about some of the things. It looks to me like oil money will be up just slightly with the document that he gave me today. And in that, there's going to be a decrease for the hub cities for the funding that they've gotten. I think when we look at the governor's budget, and we visited with him on Monday night, he has projected about $159 million more in cuts than Governor Dalrymple had suggested. Some of the things that Governor Burgum has suggested are pretty onerous to families and communities out there, and so we're going to be working to change some of those things.
What in your mind is perhaps the most troubling or onerous from that?
I think it's a combination. I don't think you can pinpoint one thing. Some of it has to do with the 0% and only 1% suggested by Governor Dalrymple for pay raises for the families and the providers out there. The governor has taken that down to 0 and 0. And so that means if you work for the state, if you work for a provider out in our communities, you aren't going to get any raise this year. In addition to that, the governor is also proposing a 5% tax on health insurance premiums for all state workers. So that means actually you're going to go in the hole this year if we follow his budget.
Yeah, it's interesting because back in the lean days of the 80s and 90s, legislators said to state employees, we can't give you a raise right now, but we want to keep that health insurance premium paid for because they saw it as an incentive for people to keep working for the state. Are you concerned that we may lose some of the best and brightest of state employees?
Well, I think that that's a real possibility. It's also, right now, we're having trouble recruiting employees anyhow because some of our pay scales are not what's out there in the private sector. And in our visits with the governor this week, he's looking at having some leverage and leeway to provide different benefits. Well, to me, health insurance is a good benefit. I know that our employees have given up raises in the past to get that health insurance benefit.
And adding on to that, there's going to be a bit of an increase in the retirement too.
Yes, there will
So
be.
they're, so they're going to get kind of a double whammy, as Senator Holmberg actually said it was going to be a double whammy.
It is, and when I look at that, there has to be some adjustment made someplace, and I think there's going to be ways to find that. Appropriations works really hard, and no bills have come out of appropriations. In fact, they haven't even gone into subcommittee work yet. So it's going to be until the last 2 weeks of the session before we get those dollars aligned where they need to be.
Compared to last year, is it unusual that those bills have not got to subcommittee by now?
I don't think so, because it's pretty much in line of where the schedule goes and how the bills are seen. It might be a little bit different this year because every agency has 2 budget bills this year. And so I'm not sure if they're giving each one a full hearing or if they're laying them side by side and comparing them as the agencies come in. One of the issues I know is I talked to one agency head and they said it's different from agency to agency of which budget they're actually testifying to. And so that makes a little bit difference, and I think hard for appropriations to understand, are you coming from the zero-based budget or are you coming from the governor's budget? And then we also have Governor Burgum's budget in there. So basically they're probably looking at 3 bunches of data that they have to analyze.
Would it be fair to say that there are still some specifics to be laid out in the Burgum budget proposals?
I would think so. He has some community-based projects that he's putting money into, and we haven't seen exactly what those are. Now, that may be not a correct statement in the fact that that budget is in the House right now, and I'm not as connected to the Human Service budget. But he's got some supports that he wants to see in some areas, and I have not seen specifics on those.
Since you talked about community-based, programs, lots of discussion during the interim, lots of discussion last session about, these treatment programs, these community-based treatment programs, behavioral health programs, addiction treatment programs. Where do you see that going? I know it's pretty early, but that seems to be kind of a gray area yet.
Well, I think it is. We have to remember that everybody across the state deserves the same kind of opportunity to access programs. We just had one of the farm organizations in, and they were looking at doing sort of a mobile mental health unit out in western North Dakota. Finding that there were 2 already appropriated for last session and one of those is going to be cut, I don't think there's going to be an opportunity to add a 3rd one. And those services are essential right now, given the ag economy is where it's at and the stresses that are on not only the farmers themselves, but the ag producers that are out there providing the services, and their economy, their income has gone way down, puts a lot of stress on everyone. So we have to find a way to have access to all those services and keeping them viable for our whole state, for the whole state.
And at the risk of using a cliche, this is the perfect storm. There's still some viability in North Dakota economy, and there will be. But agriculture is down, oil might be starting to sneak up a little bit more, but it's commodity-based, and a lot of our economy is commodity-based. And it just got hit real hard over the last year or 2.
It did, but when you look at the total income that we have, revenues coming in, we can go back maybe 4 or 6 years and hit an equal amount. And so it's not the total dollars that we need to look at, it's where those dollars are going to go to. Putting a lot of that money, which is $4 billion, into the legacy fund over the last number of years since that measure was passed has made a lot of difference in the money that has gone into the general fund. So about $4 billion has not gone into the general fund and other special funds that could have been there if the legacy fund had not been passed.
Do you support using some of the proceeds from the legacy fund to help shore up the budget this year?
I think everything has to be on the table. If we need it, it's a rainy day. I would think that the appropriations people are going to have to look at that. If we don't need it, then it's a good savings account for us in the future. And I think that that's going to be weigh a lot on what the March revenue forecast is.
Yes, there comes the March revenue forecast, which has always been very important, but this year it takes on added importance because there are some mixed signals being sent, and I think we talked about this at one point. that oil might be still creeping up. Oil is still over 1 million barrels a day, hasn't dropped below 1 million except for that one time. And really, the economic forecasting is really hard right now because of the commodities.
It is, but I look at the overall picture, besides agriculture and energy, we have tourism, we have manufacturing, we have a lot of other businesses in our state that add to that economy. And the figures that Mr. Knudsen gave me from Legislative Council this morning were sort of encouraging in the fact that an oil document on gas and oil revenue from the 15-17 biennium, the revenue from that was actually lower than what he showed me today for the 17-19 biennium.
So there might be some good news in that.
There might be, yeah. And any news is good news. Also, we can access, the Foundation Aid Stabilization Fund now, where we couldn't access that money for education before. And that's going to be in the range of $288 million. And so that will go directly into education, and that will help keep our K through 12 schools whole.
And also, it has property tax consequences.
It does. It does. You can argue with different legislators on whether it's property tax or school funding. To me, it's all the same dollar, but it's helping support our programming for our K through 12 schools.
Since we're waiting on the property tax, there seems to be a lot of hue and cry about the 12% that was set aside for property tax relief, that there seems to be a move to either move the money somewhere else or dissolve property tax relief on that end. Where do you see that at this point?
I'm trying to analyze the movement on some of the bills that are coming in and the percentages that some of the bills have on them and how that would move money. I don't think we want to confuse any of the citizens out there by doing too many moving pods right now. We need to know where that fund is and what those funds are available for. And in looking at some of the bills in the House, and mostly in the House right now, they vary some of the percentages moving around between property tax, budget stabilization, SIF fund, strategic improvement investment fund. And I think that that's going to be more confusing than it may be beneficial in the long run.
I was thinking about, there was some logic to setting these silos or pots or buckets, whatever they want to call them. But yeah, it does get a little bit confusing. It's hard for reporters too to kind of navigate through all these funds and what does what and what doesn't do what. And you're right. There's a lot of moving parts here.
There is. But the bottom line is, at the end of this session, we want to have the services for the people of North Dakota stable. We don't want to see cuts in programming for individuals. There are so many needs out there. During last session, the mental and behavioral health issues did not get covered like they should have, according to the Schulte report. And right now, the interim committee has done a lot of work on that, and there are a lot of bills coming in on that. However, to get those programs and projects funded is going to be the job of appropriations, of moving those funds in the proper order, in the proper place.
The House Majority Leader, Al Carlson's talked about having more public-private partnerships to provide those kind of treatment services. What do you think about that?
I think that's already going on right now. I think that a lot of that has been absorbed by private entities coming on and assisting in grants that the state has had available. It's always a possibility. Whatever way we can get the services out there is the best way we can do it. Remembering our tax dollars that our people pay in are used to give services back to our people.
And of course, services in this case, a lot of the services are offered behind bars, but the Schulte report and other reports have pointed out that's not the best form of treatment. It should be closer to the community. And if you put people behind bars, they're often reoffenders. They come back in. And there seems to be a real thinking that the way to go is to get these out of the jails into the communities, but it does take money and hiring people to get out to the communities.
Yeah, we heard from the courts this week that that's the case. Courts and corrections go together in a way. And we have seen that with the cuts that the court system, judicial system is having, it's having a direct impact on community-based services for offenders. And it's making it more difficult for judges, to keep people in the local community because parole and probation services have been cut down. The other issue is we're seeing in the range of 700 to 800 new prisons beds being built around the state of North Dakota. And we're a little concerned about the fact that local communities are building so they can contract with the state for services, which gets quite expensive, you know, in the range of $100 a day. That money could be better spent on having local and community-based services, which are being cut because of cuts right now. So we have to analyze that too and make sure that I think the dollar is better spent on the community end than it is on the corrections end.
Don't want to put too fine a point on that, but even your counterpart, Senator Wardner, said we can't build our way out of this. You can't build jails
No.
and have the jails, you know, be built to build your way out of it. You have to do these treatment programs. He's seems to be a very strong supporter of doing this, but again, it comes down to bucks.
Well, I think, you know, you have to get down to common sense, and common sense teaches you that putting funding at the front end on the education end and the community support end will save dollars on the corrections end. And that was one of the first things I learned when I came into the legislature, is that a program called Alternatives to Incarceration was so important. It's been a buzzword ever since, but it hasn't actually happened the way that we were hoping it would happen.
Okay, you brought up education because that was the next thing I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about. The 0 and 0 in terms of increasing per pupil student aid. What will that do to schools?
In conversation with some administrators around, they're feeling in the range of 2 to 3% is what their cost to continue services for the next biennium would be. If you go 0 and 0, there's going to have to be some significant cuts. When you come to schools, it's sort of like coming to nursing homes. You have to have the heat, you have to have the lights, you have to have the infrastructure. The only place to cut is staffing. And in schools, that's the worst place to cut. So I hope that we can come up with a plan. You know, the $288 million that's coming from the Foundation Aid Stabilization Fund is going to be real important. There's some other fund opportunities that we'll have along the way, and I'm hoping that they're going to be able to get somewhere in the range of that 2% that they need.
You think that's realistic?
I do. I really do. There's some opportunities in the corporate income tax, corporate and individual income tax, where we have really made some deep cuts in the last 2 to 3 bienniums. Some opportunities there may lay. I had a conversation with the leadership this morning, majority leadership, about that, and we're making some considerations in that area too. So
there's some openness to look at some other ideas.
Well, I think everybody's looking at options out there. I don't think anybody's set in stone on anything right now. And we've got to come down what's best for our schools out there. And it's not only K through 12. I put in a pre-K bill and heard that it came out do not pass. You know, it's sort of like corrections. If we put the money on the front end, we will save money on the back end. And so it's another opportunity to change our thinking on how to fund. I do have to say that Governor Burgum is very innovative in some of his thinking and a lot of programming, and he said that he's interested in a lot of changes. I haven't seen a lot of those come forward, and I'm interested in actually seeing them and working with him on some of those.
You mentioned that. We talked about the Main Street Initiative. We haven't seen a lot of specific on that yet. And yeah, about reinventing government. He talked a lot about that in the campaign and also in his State of the State address. He's talked a lot about that. There are some efforts that way. For example, eliminating the Office of State Treasurer. There's also a bill that Senator Casper has put in that would fold securities into insurance. But he said that's not set in stone. He introduced that bill as a vehicle to talk about some things about combining agencies or finding some savings that way. Can you embrace the idea of a reinvented government?
I think everybody's always open to suggestions and opportunities to do better for the state of North Dakota. If it would be beneficial to everybody, I think that everybody would look at that. There's some bills out there that I think are maybe working towards that end, and we'll see how that goes. You know, Main Street is everybody's street in the state of North Dakota, and we've got to keep every street. I serve a rural community. We have critical care access hospitals that are on the ragged edge right now. We have schools that are dangling because of possibility of cost of to continue increases. We have farmers out there that are dangling right now, and our job sitting down here is not to put in frivolous bills. Our job is to work hard for the people of North Dakota and make our economy stronger and make our communities more vibrant for our families.
So you're not in favor of the time zone bill?
You know, that was an interesting one. Somebody had a survey out, and I haven't had time to even take the survey on our computers yet, but I've had about half and half. You know, half of the people that have contacted me have said, leave daylight savings time alone, switch mountain time. Some people say, no, we don't want mountain time to leave, you know, and so I think the committee's going to have their hands full when they deliberate on this bill.
As he said, that's kind of going to be a kind of a fun bill for them to work through.
It is,
because there
yeah.
are a lot of moving parts to that one too.
It is, yeah, and it affects a lot of people across the state.
There's one thing that's hanging over the session that you're not hearing a lot of discussion about it yet, but correct me if I'm wrong. Medicaid expansion, given the fact that the new administration wants to repeal and replace Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and what is that going to do for Medicaid expansion? I am assuming that you probably won't have an answer when the gavel falls at the end of the session.
We may not, and that's what I'm hearing from the majority party is that they're going to save some extra days to address that, the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid expansion if that happens. I can speak to the fact that 20,000 more North Dakotans have health insurance, and that's not only beneficial to their health, it's beneficial to their emotional health and their family's well-being when you have security that you know that your health is taken care of, your health needs are taken care of. I don't know that there's a lot of appetite right now to not reauthorize that. I'm hearing conversations from the majority party that they are considering the continued expansion, and the governor has it as one of his initiatives too.
And both governors, Governor
Right.
Dalrymple before him.
Mm-hmm.
And he broke trend by even proposing it.
Yes.
And I know that when it was first passed, there was a little bit of tug and pull on that one, but it did pass to a lot of people's surprise. And now there seems to be a move, as you had mentioned, to keep it in place, at least for now.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's so beneficial to everybody. You know, when you have no people in your community, don't have to run to the emergency room and get their health care there, which is, you know, 2 to 3 times more expensive than a doctor's office call. It's important to know that your kids coming to school are healthy and feel well. They can learn better that way. To know that your workers in your businesses and in your community and your teachers can come to school and everybody feel better and feel healthy. That's so important to the well-being of the whole state.
I'm going to go back to something political, and that's just when we talked earlier, you know, just in an interview, you saw the opportunity for some alliances with, you know, your caucus and some of the Republicans. Are you seeing that start to form? It's pretty early in the session, but are Republicans approaching the Democrats?
Oh yeah, we're signing on to bills. We're joining into a concerted effort to do some things together. Right now, actually, I'll be honest to say that the bigger controversy right now is between the Senate and the House, I think. And sometimes that's always the way it is. I'm really happy to be in the Senate because we have a close-knit group of 47 people, and while we may not all agree, and we may all vote on how our districts need us to vote sometimes, we all get along very well there. I think majority and minority leadership get along well in the Senate. We've had a good working relationship there, and I hope that it continues because that's what our focus is down here. To not come in and react like a Democrat or a Republican, but to react like a North Dakotan and work for everybody that's here.
In the few minutes we have left, I just wanted to get into one bill that you've introduced or working on, and this bill about restraints in schools.
Sure.
Can you give me a quick thumbnail explanation of that?
Well, I don't know how quick you want me to be. I sat on the Interim Education Committee, and that was one of our studies, to study seclusion and restraint of students in our North Dakota schools because there have been a number of issues across the state. The Office of Civil Rights in the last 2 years have seen an increase of about 200 instances in North Dakota alone, incidents in North Dakota, from about 700 to about 900 and some. That's alarming for us in North Dakota to know that on a daily basis of 180 days of school, 3 to 4 kids are either restrained or secluded every day for a variety of reasons. That has nothing to do with the seclusion and restraint. The task force was formed because a number of stakeholders felt that there wouldn't be enough time in the Education Interim Committee to study this. And so between 30 and 40 different groups of stakeholders got together. We met 5 full days, 1 day a month for 5 months. We came up with a consensus plan. Now, a consensus plan is different than a vote. You all agree you can do some supports, and we came away with 8 supports that we felt were important. The main one being that all schools in North Dakota should have a policy.
Great.
And as a result of that, the bill is ready to go. I think it's 2275, I'm not sure, and should be coming up this next week in
right.
committee.
Well, thank you. We have to leave it there.
Thank you very
unfortunately.
much.
Our guest today on Legislative Review, Senator Joan Heckman. She's from New Rockford, North Dakota, and is the Democratic floor leader in the Senate. For Prairie Public, I'm Dave Thompson.